The evening air was cold as 17-year-old Maya walked home from her shift at the diner. Her feet hurt, and her sneakers had seen better days. The soles were so worn that she could feel every crack in the sidewalk beneath her. But complaining wouldn't change anything. It never did. She pulled her thin jacket tighter around her body and took the shortcut through the industrial district. Most people avoided this area after dark, but Maya had walked this route 100 times before. The street was mostly empty, just a few warehouses with flickering lights and the occasional truck rumbling past. Maya lived in a group home with 6 other kids. It wasn't much, but it was all she had. Her parents had died when she was 9, and since then, she'd bounced between different foster homes and facilities. She'd learned early on that the only person she could really count on was herself. Tonight had been a long shift. Her manager had asked her to stay an extra 2 hours because someone called in sick. Maya couldn't say no. She needed every dollar she could get. College seemed like an impossible dream, but she refused to give up on it. She studied whenever she could, usually at the public library after work. Surrounded by old books and the quiet hum of fluorescent lights as she turned the corner near the old fence line, she heard something that made her heart jump. Tires screeching. The sound was sharp and terrible, cutting through the quiet evening like a knife. Maya looked up just in time to see a black car swerving wildly down the street. It was moving too fast, way too fast for this narrow road. The driver seemed to be fighting with the steering wheel, but the car wasn't responding. It spun once, twice, and then crashed straight through the chain-link fence with a horrible metal scream. The car slammed into a concrete barrier and stopped with a sickening crunch. For a moment, everything went silent. Then Maya heard the hiss of steam or smoke coming from under the hood. She stood frozen for just a second. Her mind was telling her to run, to get help, to do something. But her feet weren't moving. Around her, a few other people had stopped. Someone across the street was already filming on their phone. Another person was walking past like nothing had happened at all. Nobody was going to help. That thought snapped Maya into action. Her legs started moving before she even realized what she was doing. She ran toward the wreck, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. When she reached the car, she could see him through the cracked windshield. An older man, maybe in his 70s, slumped over the steering wheel. Blood was running down the side of his face from a cut on his forehead. His eyes were closed. Maya yanked on the driver's door handle. It didn't budge. The impact had jammed it shut. She tried again, pulling with all her strength. And this time the door gave way with a groan of twisted metal. The smell hit her immediately. Gasoline, strong and sharp. Her stomach twisted with fear. She'd seen enough movies to know what that meant. "Sir? Sir, can you hear me?" Maya's voice came out shaky. She reached in and gently touched his shoulder. He didn't respond. She fumbled for her phone with trembling hands and dialed 911. While it rang, she noticed smoke starting to pour out from under the hood. Not just steam. Actual smoke. 911. What's your emergency? There's been a car accident on Industrial Road near the old textile warehouse. A man is hurt. He's unconscious, and there's smoke coming from the car. Please hurry. The operator asked her to stay on the line, but Maya barely heard the instructions. All she could think about was getting this man away from the car. Before something worse happened, she dropped the phone onto the ground and reached across the man to unbuckle his seatbelt. Her hands were shaking so badly she could hardly work the clasp. Finally, it clicked open. Maya wasn't a big person. She was 17 and barely 5'4". This man was much larger than her. But somehow, she managed to hook her arms under his shoulders and pull. He was heavy, so heavy, but fear gave her strength she didn't know she had. She dragged him backward, away from the car, her feet sliding on the gravel. 5 feet, 10 feet, 15 feet. Her arms were burning, and her back screamed in protest. But she kept going until they were a safe distance away. She lowered him as gently as she could onto the ground, then quickly pulled off her diner apron. It wasn't clean, but it would have to do. She pressed it against the wound on his head, trying to remember the first aid video she'd watched in health class 2 years ago. "You're going to be okay," she whispered, even though she had no idea if that was true. Help is coming. In the distance, she could finally hear sirens. The beautiful sound of help on the way, the man's eyelids fluttered. For just a moment, his eyes opened. They were pale blue, clouded with confusion and pain. He looked directly at Maya's face. You ... His voice was barely a whisper, rough and weak. You saved my life. Maya's throat tightened. Don't try to talk. The ambulance is almost here. What's your name? He asked, his words slurring slightly. Maya, my name is Maya. His lips moved like he was trying to say something else, but then his eyes closed again. Panic shot through her. Sir? Sir? She checked his pulse. Still there. Still breathing. He just passed out again. The ambulance pulled up with flashing lights, and 2 paramedics jumped out with a stretcher and medical bags. They took over immediately, asking Maya quick questions about what happened while they checked his vital signs and stabilized his neck. Are you family? One of them asked as they loaded him onto the stretcher. Maya shook her head. No, I just ... I was walking by. You did good, kid, the paramedic said with a quick nod. You might have saved his life. Then they were loading him into the ambulance, doors slamming shut, sirens wailing as they sped away into the night. Maya stood there in the middle of the street, her apron still in her hands. Now stained with someone else's blood, her whole body was shaking. Around her, the small crowd that had gathered was already dispersing. Someone muttered, "Good job," as they walked past. But most people just went on with their evening like nothing had happened. Maya picked up her phone from where she'd dropped it and started the walk back to the group home. Her hands were still trembling. She had no idea who that man was or if he would be okay. She would probably never know. She was just a girl who happened to be in the right place at the right time. Nothing more. Tomorrow she would go back to work, back to her regular life, and this night would fade into just another memory dot or so, she thought. 2 weeks passed, and Maya tried her best to forget about that night. But every time she closed her eyes, she could still see the blood on the man's face, still smell the gasoline, still feel her heart racing as she pulled him from that car. She wondered sometimes if he was okay, if he'd made it. But there was no way to know, and honestly, Maya had enough to worry about in her own life without dwelling on strangers. Her days fell back into their usual rhythm. Wake up at 6. Get ready in the crowded bathroom she shared with 3 other girls. Grab whatever breakfast the group home had available, usually cereal or toast. Then off to her morning shift at the diner, slinging plates of eggs and bacon to tired construction workers and truck drivers. After work, she'd go to the library and study for her GE. Maya had dropped out of high school when she aged out of her last foster home and had to find work. The school counselor had tried to convince her to stay, but Maya couldn't juggle a full-time job and school. Something had to give, and she needed money more than a diploma, but she hadn't given up. She was determined to get her GED and then somehow, some way, find a path to college. How exactly she'd pay for it, she had no idea. That was a problem for future Maya. Present Maya had more immediate concerns, like the fact that her sneakers were literally falling apart, or that Mrs. Chun, her caseworker, had reminded her last week that she'd be aging out of the system in 10 months. After that, she'd be on her own, completely. You need to start thinking about your options, Mrs. Chun had said in that tone adults use when they're trying to be helpful but really just making you more anxious. Maybe look into room-sharing situations. There are some programs that can help with the transition. Maya had nodded and smiled, but inside she was terrified. Where would she go? How would she afford rent on a diner salary? The future felt like a dark tunnel with no light at the end. It was a Wednesday afternoon, and Maya had just gotten home from her shift. She was exhausted and looking forward to taking a hot shower before the other kids used up all the water. But as she walked up to the group home, she noticed something unusual. A sleek, black car was parked out front. Not just any car, but the kind of car you see in movies. Long, shiny, probably cost more than Maya would make in her entire life. It looked completely out of place in their rundown neighborhood. 2 of the younger kids were standing on the sidewalk, staring at it with wide eyes. "Whose car is that?" Maya asked. "Dunno," said Tommy, a 12-year-old with a gap-toothed grin. "But some fancy lady went inside looking for you?" Maya's stomach dropped. Looking for her? Why would anyone be looking for her? Her first thought was that she was in trouble. Maybe something about that accident. Maybe the man had died and they thought it was her fault somehow. Her mind raced through a dozen terrible scenarios as she pushed open the front door. In the small living room, Mrs. Patterson, the house mother, was sitting on the worn couch across from a woman who looked like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. The woman was maybe in her 50s, wearing a navy blue suit that probably cost more than Maya's entire wardrobe. Her silver hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and she sat with the kind of posture that suggested she'd never slouched a day in her life. "Ah, Maya," Mrs. Patterson said, standing up. "This is Ms. Ashford. She's here to see you." The woman rose gracefully and extended her hand. Her handshake was firm and professional. "Maya Johnson? I'm so pleased to finally meet you. My name is Margaret Ashford, and I'm the personal assistant to Mr. Harold Whitmore." The name meant nothing to Maya. She glanced at Mrs. Patterson, who looked just as confused as she felt. "I'm sorry, but I don't know who that is," Maya said cautiously. Margaret smiled, and it was warm, reaching her eyes. "Of course you don't. But he knows you. You saved his life 2 weeks ago? The car accident on Industrial Road?" Maya's hand flew to her mouth. "The man in the car? He's okay?" "More than okay, thanks to you. He's made a full recovery, and he's been quite determined to find you and thank you properly." Maya's shoulders sagged with relief. She hadn't realized how much she'd been carrying that worry until it lifted. "I'm so glad he's all right. But really, you didn't have to come all this way. I just did what anyone would do." Margaret's expression suggested she disagreed with that assessment. "Actually, Maya, most people wouldn't have done what you did." The police reviewed the security footage from a nearby warehouse. Several people walked past that accident. Some even stopped to film it. "You were the only one who helped?" Maya felt her cheeks grow hot. She didn't like being the center of attention. "Mr. Whitmore would very much like to meet you," Margaret continued. "To thank you in person. Would you be willing to visit him this Saturday? I can arrange transportation." Maya hesitated. Something about this felt weird. Rich people didn't usually track down random teenagers to say thank you. There had to be more to it. "Why?" she asked bluntly. "I mean, that's nice and all, but you could have just sent a card or something. Why does he want to meet me?" Margaret seemed to appreciate the directness. "That's a fair question. The truth is, what you did made a profound impact on Mr. Whitmore. He spent the past 2 weeks thinking about it. About you. About the fact that a young woman with every reason to look the other way instead risked her own safety to help a stranger. He'd like the opportunity to express his gratitude." Properly, Mrs. Patterson was giving Maya that look that said this could be a good opportunity. But Maya had learned to be suspicious of things that seemed too good to be. "True. Is this some kind of charity thing?" Maya asked, unable to keep the edge out of her voice. "Because I don't need anyone's pity." "It's not pity," Margaret said gently. "And it's not charity. It's gratitude. There's a difference." Maya chewed her lip, thinking, what could it hurt? If it got weird, she could always leave. "Okay," she said finally. "I guess I can do that." Margaret's smile widened. "Wonderful. I'll pick you up Saturday morning at 10, if that works for you. I have a shift at the diner from 7 to noon. What if I speak to your manager and compensate them for the hours you'll miss?" Maya blinked. "You do that?" "Of course." After Margaret left, leaving behind a business card and a faint scent of expensive perfume, Maya sat on the lumpy couch and stared at the card. The paper was thick and creamy with elegant lettering. "That was strange," Mrs. Patterson said, settling back down. "But she seemed legitimate. Nice, even." "Yeah," Maya agreed, but her mind was elsewhere. Who was this Harold Whitmore? Why did his assistant drive a car that cost more than most houses? And what exactly did he want from her? That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Saturday. She had no idea what to wear. Everything she owned was either from thrift stores or hand-me-downs. Would they expect her to look a certain way? Would they judge her? And why did she even care? She'd saved a man's life. That should be enough. She didn't owe these people anything, but curiosity gnawed at her. What would his house look like? What kind of person was he? And maybe, just maybe, there was a tiny part of her that wanted to see how the other half lived. Just for a little while, Saturday morning came too quickly. Maya put on her best outfit, which was a pair of jeans that didn't have holes and a clean sweater. She brushed her hair until it shined and even borrowed some lip gloss from one of the other girls, dotted exactly 10 o'clock. The black car pulled up again. Margaret stepped out, looking just as polished as before. The drive was long. They left Maya's neighborhood with its chain-link fences and barred windows, passing through increasingly nicer areas. Small houses became bigger houses. Bigger houses became mansions. The streets got cleaner, the trees more manicured, the cars more expensive. Maya's stomach churned with nerves. She felt like she was traveling to another planet. Finally, they turned down a private road and stopped at a massive iron gate. Margaret pressed a button, spoke briefly into an intercom, and the gate swung open. Maya's jaw dropped. The driveway seemed to go on forever, lined with perfectly trimmed hedges and trees that looked like they'd been planted by someone who really knew what they were doing. Flower beds burst with colors she didn't even have names for. And at the end of the driveway sat a house that made Maya questioned everything she thought she knew about houses. It wasn't a house. It was a mansion. No, bigger than a mansion. It was like something from a movie about royalty or extremely rich people. 3 stories of cream-colored stone with huge windows that sparkled in the sunlight. Columns flanked the entrance like something from ancient Greece. Holy ... Maya breathed, unable to finish the sentence. Margaret glanced at her with understanding in her eyes. It's quite something, isn't it? Don't worry, Mr. Whitmore isn't nearly as intimidating as his house. They pulled up to the front entrance, where stone steps led to massive wooden doors. Maya climbed out of the car on shaky legs. Her sneakers, which had seemed acceptable this morning, now looked pathetic against the pristine stone. Margaret led her inside, and Maya tried not to gawk at everything. The entrance hall had a ceiling that seemed impossibly high, with a chandelier that probably cost more than the group home. The floors were marble, actual marble, and her footsteps echoed as she walked. They passed through hallways lined with paintings that looked like they belonged in museums. Maya caught glimpses of rooms filled with furniture that was probably worth more than she'd make in 10 years. Finally, Margaret stopped at a door and knocked gently before opening it. Mr. Whitmore. Maya Johnson is here? The room was smaller than Maya expected, more intimate. It was lined with bookshelves and had big windows that looked out over gardens that seemed to stretch forever. And sitting in a leather chair near the window was him, the man from the accident. He looked different now. Clean, healthy, dressed in casual but clearly expensive clothes. His white hair was neatly combed, and though he still had a small bandage on his temple, he looked strong, alive. When he saw Maya, his face lit up with a smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes. Maya, he said, rising from his chair with more energy than she'd expected. Thank you for coming. I'm Harold Whitmore, and I owe you my life. Harold Whitmore's handshake was warm and steady, nothing like the limp, bloodied hand Maya had held 2 weeks ago. Up close, she could see that his pale blue eyes were sharp and alert, studying her with an intensity that made her nervous. Please. Sit down, he said, gesturing to a comfortable-looking chair across from his. Would you like something to drink? Water? Tea? Margaret makes excellent coffee. Oh, water's fine, thank you, Maya said, perching on the edge of the chair. She felt out of place. Like a stray cat, someone had brought into a palace. Margaret poured water from a crystal pitcher into a glass that probably cost more than Maya's weekly paycheck and handed it to her before. Quietly leaving the room, Harold settled back into his chair with a slight wince that suggested he was still healing. For a long moment he just looked at her, and Maya fought the urge to squirm. I've thought about you every day since the accident, he said finally. About what you did? About the courage it took. I just did what needed to be done, Maya said, uncomfortable with the praise. Anyone would have. But they didn't, Harold said firmly. The police showed me the footage. At least 8 people passed by. Some of them looked right at my car and kept walking. One person stood there filming on their phone for 2 full minutes before leaving. But you, a 17-year-old girl who had every reason to be afraid, you ran toward danger without hesitation. Maya shifted in her seat. You needed help. And you gave it? Without knowing who I was. Without expecting anything in return. He leaned forward slightly. Do you know who I am, Maya? She shook her head. Margaret said your name, but no, I don't know you. A small smile crossed his face. That's refreshing, actually. I'm the founder of Whitmore Industries. We manufacture technology components, semiconductors, industrial equipment. The company has been around for 45 years. Maya's expression must have been blank because Harold chuckled. You have no idea what that means, do you? Not really, Maya admitted. Sorry. Don't be. It means I'm wealthy. Very wealthy. My company is worth billions of dollars, and I've spent most of my life building it. He paused, his expression growing more serious. That night I was driving myself home from a late meeting at one of our facilities. I'd sent my driver home hours earlier. There was a mechanical failure with the steering, and I swerved to avoid hitting a dog that ran into the road. That's when I lost control. Maya listened, her water glass forgotten in her hands. The doctors told me I had a concussion and significant blood loss. If I'd stayed in that car much longer, if the fuel had ignited, or if I'd simply lost more blood. He trailed off. You saved my life, Maya. There's no question about it. I'm glad you're okay, Maya said quietly. Really, I am. But Mr. Whitmore, I still don't understand why you brought me here. A thank you card would have been enough. Harold studied her for another moment, then stood and walked to the window. Outside, the garden stretched out in perfect geometric patterns. After I woke up in the hospital, I had Margaret look into who you were. Not to invade your privacy, but to understand the person who saved me. He turned back to face her. I learned that you're in foster care. That you lost your parents when you were 9. That you work 40 hours a week at a diner while studying for your GED. That you want to go to college to study social work so you can help other kids in the system. Maya felt her defenses rising. You investigated me? I wanted to know who you were, Harold said gently. And what I learned humbled me. Here you are, barely 18, working harder than most adults I know, with dreams and goals despite everything life has thrown at you. And you still found it in yourself to help a stranger. He walked back to his chair and sat down carefully. I'd like to help you, Maya. I want to pay for your college education. Any school you can get into. Full tuition, room and board, books, everything. No strings attached? Maya's mouth went dry. She set her water glass down before she dropped it. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. But why? You don't even know me. I know enough. I know you're the kind of person who runs toward trouble instead of away from it. I know you're hardworking and determined. And I know that talent like yours shouldn't be wasted because of circumstances beyond your control. Maya's mind was spinning. College, full ride. No debt, it was everything she'd dreamed about but never thought possible. But there had to be a catch. There was always a catch. What do you want from me? She asked, her voice harder than she intended. People don't just give away money for nothing. Harold didn't seem offended by her suspicion. In fact, he looked like he'd expected it. You're right to be cautious, but I promise you, there's no catch. This isn't about control or obligation. It's about gratitude and opportunity. He paused. However, I do have a request. Not a requirement, but a request. There it was. What kind of request? I'd like you to spend some time with my granddaughter. Lily, she's 15, and she's been struggling since her parents died 2 years ago. Maya's expression softened slightly. Her parents died? Harold nodded, and for the first time, she saw real pain in his eyes. My son and his wife. Boating accident. Lily came to live with me and I've tried my best, but I'm not enough. She's angry at the world, angry at me, angry at herself. She's failing school, pushing away friends, and I don't know how to reach her. And you think I can help? I think someone who's survived loss and come out the other side might be able to connect with her in ways I can't. I'm not asking you to be her therapist or even her friend. Just spend time with her. Talk to her. Let her see that it's possible to build a life after tragedy. Maya sat back in her chair, processing. This was real. He was really offering to pay for her entire education. And all he wanted was for her to talk to his granddaughter. What if I can't help her? Maya asked. What if we don't get along? Then you tried, and that's enough. The college fund isn't conditional on your success with Lily. I meant what I said about no strings attached. But I'm hoping you'll at least meet her. Maya thought about all the adults who tried to help her over the years. Social workers, teachers, foster parents. Some had been genuinely kind. Others had been doing a job. But none of them had really understood what it was like to lose everything and have to build yourself back up from nothing. Maybe this girl needed someone who actually got it. When would you want me to meet her? Maya asked. Hope flickered across Harold's face. Are you saying yes? I'm saying I'll think about it. This is a lot to process. Of course. Take all the time you need. He reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope. This is a letter explaining my offer in writing, along with contact information for my lawyer if you'd like to have someone review it. I want you to feel completely comfortable with this arrangement. Maya took the envelope, her hands trembling slightly. Inside could be her entire future. I know this seems too good to be true, Harold said gently. I know you've probably learned to be suspicious of help because it usually comes with conditions. But Maya, sometimes good things happen simply because someone wants to do something good. Let me do this. Let me turn the worst night of my life into something meaningful. Maya looked down at the envelope, then back up at Harold. This man who she'd pulled from a burning car, who she'd thought she'd never see again, was offering her a chance at the life she'd always wanted. Can I ask you something? Maya said, anything. Why me? I mean, you're rich. You probably donate to charities and foundations and stuff. Why is this different? Harold was quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. Because you saw me as a human being who needed help, not as a name or a bank account. In my position, you learn quickly that most people want something from you. They see dollar signs, not a person. But you didn't know anything about me, and you helped anyway. That kind of character is rare, Maya, and it deserves to be rewarded. He stood up slowly, and Maya stood too. Meet Lily just once. Have lunch with her tomorrow, and then decide. If you decide this isn't for you, the college fund stands regardless. I owe you my life. This is the least I can do. Maya nodded slowly. Okay, I'll meet her. Wonderful. Margaret will pick you up tomorrow at noon. And Maya... He extended his hand again. Thank you. For everything. As Margaret drove her back to the group home, Maya clutched the envelope in her lap and stared out the window. The neighborhoods gradually got rougher, the houses smaller, until they were back in her world of chain-link fences and cracked sidewalks. But for the first time in years, Maya felt something she'd almost forgotten how to feel. Hope that night. She lay in her narrow bed in the crowded room she shared with 3 other girls and read Harold's letter by flashlight. It was all there in writing, signed and official. A full scholarship to any accredited university. No conditions. No tricks. She thought about Lily, the grieving 15-year-old who'd lost her parents. Maya knew that pain. She knew how it felt to wake up every morning and remember all over again that they were gone. She knew the anger, the emptiness. The feeling that nothing would ever be right again. Maybe she couldn't fix Lily, but maybe she could show her that survival was possible. That life could still have meaning, even after loss. Maya tucked the letter under her pillow and closed her eyes. Tomorrow she would meet a girl who probably didn't want to meet her. A girl who had everything money could buy, but nothing it couldn't. And somehow, despite all her own problems, Maya was going to try to help, because that's what you did when someone needed you, even if it scared you. Even if you didn't know how, you showed up. Margaret picked Maya up at noon the next day, just as promised. This time, Maya knew what to expect. The long drive, the fancy gates, the mansion that looked like something out of a dream. But knowing didn't make it any less intimidating. "Lily is waiting in the garden room," Margaret said as they pulled up. "She's been told about you, though I can't say she was particularly enthusiastic about the meeting." Great, Maya thought. This was already off to a wonderful start. Margaret led her through the house to a bright, airy room filled with plants and comfortable furniture. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out onto the gardens. And sitting on a white couch, scrolling through her phone with an expression of complete boredom, was Lily. The girl was beautiful in that effortless way some people just were. Long dark hair, perfect skin, wearing clothes that probably cost more than Maya made in a month. But her eyes were cold, and there was a hardness to her expression that Maya recognized immediately. It was the look of someone who'd built walls so high that nothing could get through. "Lily, this is Maya," Margaret said gently. Lily barely looked up from her phone. "Cool, the charity case my grandfather hired to fix me." Maya felt a flash of anger but pushed it down. She'd dealt with hostile kids before at the group home. This was nothing new. "Nice to meet you too," Maya said. Sitting down in a chair across from Lily without waiting for an invitation, Margaret hesitated, then quietly left the room. For a long moment neither of them spoke. Lily kept scrolling through her phone, making it very clear that Maya wasn't worth her attention. Maya just sat there, looking around the room, perfectly comfortable with the silence. Finally, Lily looked up, irritated. "Aren't you going to try to talk to me? Ask me how I'm feeling? Tell me everything's going to be okay?" "Nope," Maya said. That got Lily's attention. "No, why would I? I don't know you. I don't know if everything's going to be okay. And honestly, you don't look like you want to talk." Lily's eyes narrowed. "Then why are you here?" "Your grandfather asked me to meet you. So here I am." "Meeting you?" Maya shrugged. "If you want to sit there on your phone the whole time, that's fine. I get paid either way." "Paid?" Lily's voice was sharp. "So this is just a job to you?" "Your grandfather's paying for my college," Maya said bluntly. "So yeah, in a way. But he's not paying me to be here with you specifically." "That part's optional. I could leave right now if I wanted. Then why don't you?" Maya considered the question. "Curiosity, I guess." "Your grandfather said you've been having a hard time?" "I wanted to see for myself." "Oh, poor little rich girl, right?" Lily's voice dripped with sarcasm. "Must be so sad being stuck in this huge house with everything I could ever want." "I wasn't going to say that." "But you were thinking it." "Actually, I was thinking you look exactly like I did 2 years ago. Angry at everyone. Pushing people away before they could leave. Acting like you don't care about anything because caring hurts too much." Lily's expression flickered just for a second before the mask slid back into place. "You don't know anything about me. You're right, I don't. But I know about loss. My parents died when I was 9. Car accident. After that, I bounced around foster homes for years. Some were okay. Some were terrible. And the whole time I was angry. So angry I thought I'd explode." Lily was quiet now, actually listening. "People tried to help," Maya continued. "Social workers, therapists, foster parents who actually gave a damn. And you know what I did? I pushed every single one of them away. Because it was easier to be angry than to admit I was scared and hurt and lost. Did someone give you this little speech?" Lily asked, but her voice had lost some of its edge. "Is this supposed to make me feel better?" "No, I'm not trying to make you feel better. I'm just telling you what happened to me." Maya leaned back in her chair. "Eventually I realized something. Being angry didn't bring my parents back. It didn't make the pain go away. It just made me lonely on top of everything else." Lily looked away, staring out at the garden. Her jaw was tight, like she was fighting to keep control. "Your grandfather said your parents died 2 years ago," Maya said quietly. Boating accident. Lily's voice was flat. They were on vacation. Just the two of them? I was supposed to go, but I had a stupid volleyball tournament. So they went without me. And they never came back. I'm sorry. Everyone's sorry. Lily's hands clenched into fists. Everyone's so sorry, but nobody can do anything. They're gone, and sorry doesn't change that? You're right. It doesn't. Lily looked at her, surprised. That's it? No, but they'd want you to be happy, or at least you have your grandfather. Would that help? No, then why would I say it? Maya met her eyes. Your parents are dead. That sucks. It's not fair, and it's not okay, and no amount of positive thinking is going to fix it. You get to be angry about that. For the first time, something in Lily's expression cracked. Her eyes got bright with tears she was clearly trying not to shed. Everyone wants me to move on, she said, her voice thick. My therapist, my grandfather, everyone. They want me to be okay again. But I don't know how to be okay when everything is wrong. You don't have to be okay, Maya said. You just have to survive. One day at a time. And some days just 1 hour at a time. That's all. A single tear slid down Lily's cheek. She wiped it away angrily. I hate this. I hate feeling like this. I hate being sad all the time. I know. They sat in silence for a while. Not the hostile silence from before, but something softer. More real? Do you still miss them? Lily asked finally. Your parents? Every single day, Maya said honestly. It doesn't go away. But it gets different. Less sharp, I guess. You learn to carry it? I don't want to carry it. I want them back. Yeah, me too. Over the next few weeks, Maya visited the estate regularly. Sometimes she and Lily talked about serious things. More often, they just hung out. Maya taught Lily how to play spades, a card game she'd learned at the group home. Lily showed Maya her room, which was bigger than the entire first floor of where Maya lived. They were different in almost every way. Lily had grown up with wealth and privilege. Maya had grown up with nothing. But grief was the great equalizer. It didn't care about money or status. It hurt the same whether you lived in a mansion or a group home. Slowly, Lily started to open up. She talked about her mom's laugh, about how her dad used to make terrible jokes at dinner. She cried sometimes, and Maya let her, not trying to fix it or make it better. Just being there, and something unexpected happened. Maya started to heal too. Talking to Lily about loss made Maya confront her own grief in ways she'd been avoiding for years. She realized she'd been running from her pain, burying it under work and goals and plans for the future. But sitting with Lily, sharing their stories, she began to accept that her parents were gone and that it was okay to miss them. Harold watched from a distance, seeing the change in his granddaughter. Lily smiled more. She started eating better, sleeping better. She even agreed to go back to school instead of continuing with her home tutor. One afternoon, Harold called Maya into his study. She'd been to the house so many times now that it didn't feel quite as intimidating anymore. I wanted to thank you, he said. Lily is doing so much better. You've helped her in ways I couldn't. She helped me too, Maya admitted. I didn't expect that. Harold smiled. The best relationships are the ones where both people grow. Maya, I've been thinking. I have a position opening up at Whitmore Industries. In our community outreach division, we work with nonprofit organizations, develop programs for underserved communities, that sort of thing. It's an internship, but it pays well, and it would give you experience in the kind of work you want to do. Maya's eyes widened. Seriously? Seriously. You'd start after you get your GED, work part-time while you prepare for college? If you're interested, yes, absolutely yes. But not everyone was happy about Maya's growing presence in Harold's life. Charles, Harold's nephew who worked at the company, started asking questions. Who was this girl? Why was Harold so interested in her? Was she taking advantage of an old man's gratitude? He began spreading rumors, suggesting that Maya was a con artist, that she was manipulating Harold to get into his will. Some of the staff started treating Maya differently, with suspicion and coldness. Maya heard the whispers, saw the looks. It hurt more than she wanted to admit. She'd finally found something good, and people were trying to ruin it. One day, she overheard two housekeepers talking in the hallway. That girl from the street, she's got some nerve. Probably thinks she get a piece of the fortune. Mr. Whitmore's too trusting. Someone should warn him. Maya felt her face burn with shame and anger. She turned to leave, but Lily was standing right behind her. She'd heard everything too. Don't listen to them, Lily said fiercely. They don't know anything. Maybe they're right. Maybe I shouldn't be here. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Lily grabbed her arm. You're here because you're a good person. Because you saved my grandfather's life. Because you helped me when I thought nobody could. And if anyone has a problem with that, they can deal with me. For the first time, Maya saw real fire in Lily's eyes. Not anger born of pain, but anger born of loyalty. Of friendship. Thanks, Maya said quietly. That's what sisters do, Lily said, and then looked surprised at her own words. I mean, not that we're sisters, but kind of. You know? Maya smiled, her eyes stinging with tears. Yeah, I know. That night, Harold made a decision. He'd seen the way people treated Maya, heard the rumors his nephew was spreading. And he knew what he had to do. It was time to make things official. Maya's 18th birthday fell on a cold Tuesday in November. She woke up in the group home expecting it to be like any other day. Maybe Mrs. Patterson would remember and get a grocery store cake like she did for all the kids. Maybe the other kids would sing off-key while she blew out candles. Nothing special, but it was something. She definitely didn't expect Margaret to show up at 9 in the morning with an invitation. Mr. Whitmore would like you to come to the house this evening, Margaret said, standing in the doorway with that calm, professional smile. He's planned a small celebration for your birthday. Maya's stomach did a little flip. He didn't have to do that. He wanted to. 7 o'clock. And wear something nice. Margaret's eyes twinkled. I left a gift in the car for you. Consider it an early present. After Margaret left, Maya went out to find an elegant shopping bag on the front steps. Inside was a dress. Not just any dress, but something beautiful. Deep blue fabric that felt like water between her fingers, simple but clearly expensive. There were shoes too, and a note in Margaret's neat handwriting. Every young woman deserves to feel special on her birthday. Maya held the dress up and felt tears prick her eyes. She couldn't remember the last time someone had given her something just because they wanted to make her happy that evening. As Margaret's car pulled up to the mansion, Maya felt different. The dress fit perfectly, and for once she didn't feel like an outsider. She felt like someone who belonged. But when she walked into the house, she was confused. Margaret led her to the main sitting room, and it was quiet. Just a few people there. Harold, Lily, and a few staff members that Maya had gotten to know over the past months. No big party. No crowd. Happy birthday, Maya, Harold said warmly, walking over to give her a hug. Lily bounded up and hugged her too. You look amazing. That dress is perfect. I thought there'd be more people, Maya said, looking around. This is better, Lily said with a grin. Just us, the people who actually matter. They had dinner first, and it was nothing like Maya had expected. She'd imagined some fancy, formal meal where she'd have to worry about which fork to use. Instead, it was relaxed. They ordered pizza, Lily's favorite, and Harold told funny stories about his early days building his company. Maya found herself laughing until her stomach hurt. After dinner, Harold stood up and cleared his throat. The room went quiet. Maya, I asked you here tonight because you've become very special to me and to Lily. What started as a simple thank you has turned into something much more meaningful. You've brought life back into this house. You've helped my granddaughter find her way again. And you've reminded an old man what really matters in life. Maya felt her cheeks warm. She wasn't used to this kind of attention. Harold continued, his voice growing more serious. I've made some decisions, and I wanted to share them with you on your birthday because it feels like the right time for new beginnings. He nodded to Margaret, who handed him a folder. First, I'm establishing the Maya Johnson Foundation, effective immediately. It will be endowed with $50 million, and its mission will be to support young people aging out of the foster care system. Educational scholarships, job training, housing assistance, mentorship programs. Everything you wished you'd had when you needed it most. Maya's hand flew to her mouth. $50 million. For foster kids. Because of her? You'll serve as the foundation's director once you complete your college education, Harold said. We'll have a full staff to support you, and you'll have complete control over how the foundation operates. This is your vision, Maya, your chance to make a real difference. Maya couldn't speak. Tears were streaming down her face. Lily grabbed her hand and squeezed. But there's more, Harold said gently. I've spoken with my lawyers, and with your permission, I'd like to establish a trust fund in your name. It will provide you with financial security for the rest of your life. You'll never have to worry about money, about survival. You can focus on your education, your dreams, your future. Mr. Whitmore, I can't. That's too much, Maya managed to say. It's not nearly enough, Harold said firmly. You saved my life, Maya, but more than that, you saved Lily's spirit. You've given an old man hope for the future. And you did it all without asking for anything in return. Let me do this, please. Maya looked at Lily, who was crying too now, and nodding encouragement. There's one more thing, Harold said, and his voice got softer. The past few months, having you here, watching you and Lily become like sisters, it's made me realize that family isn't always about blood. It's about love and loyalty and showing up for each other. He paused, pulling out a document. I've spoken with my lawyers and with social services. Maya, I know you age out of the foster system next month. I know you're planning to find a room somewhere, figure things out on your own, but I'd like to offer you another option. I'd like to become your legal guardian. Just for the formality of it, since you're already 18 in. But more importantly, I'd like you to have a home here. A real home. For as long as you want it. Maya's legs felt weak. Lily was openly sobbing now, happy tears running down her face. You don't have to decide right now, Harold said quickly. Take time to think about it. But I want you to know that you have a place here. You've always had a place here from the moment you pulled me out of that car. Maya couldn't hold back anymore. She crossed the room and hugged Harold, crying into his shoulder like she hadn't cried since she was a little girl. All the years of being alone, of having nobody, of believing she'd always have to fight through life by herself, it all came pouring out. Yes, she sobbed. Yes, I want that. I want a home. Lily joined the hug, wrapping her arms around both of them, and for a moment they just stood there. Three people who'd all lost so much, who'd all been broken in different ways, holding each other together. The next few months passed in a blur. Maya moved her few belongings into a beautiful bedroom in the mansion. She passed her GED with flying colors. Harold threw her a party for that too. Smaller, but just as meaningful, the foundation began its work, and Maya threw herself into helping design the programs. She interviewed foster kids, talked to social workers, figured out what help was actually needed versus what people thought was needed. She was good at it. Really good. Charles, Harold's nephew, tried one last time to cause problems. He went to the press claiming Maya was manipulating Harold, taking advantage of an elderly man. But the story backfired when Harold held a press conference and told the truth. The whole truth. About the accident, about Maya's courage, about everything she'd done for his family. The public loved it. The media called Maya a hero, but Maya didn't care about any of that. She cared that she finally had a family. She started at Columbia University in the fall, studying social work just like she'd always dreamed. She commuted from the mansion, and every evening she'd come home to find Lily waiting to hear about her day. They'd have dinner with Harold, talking and laughing and making plans. Lily was back in school too, and thriving. She'd joined the volleyball team, made new friends, and started talking about college herself. The angry, withdrawn girl Maya had first met was gone, replaced by someone who smiled easily and loved fiercely. 1 year after the accident, Maya stood at a podium in a hotel ballroom, giving a speech at a foster care advocacy event. The room was packed with social workers, politicians, donors, and foster youth who'd been helped by the foundation. A year ago, I was working double shifts at a diner, sleeping in a crowded group home, and wondering if I'd ever escape the system, Maya said, her voice steady and clear. I had no family, no real prospects, and honestly not much hope. But then something happened that changed everything. She looked out at the audience and saw Harold and Lily sitting in the front row, beaming with pride. I learned that family isn't something you're born into. It's something you build. It's showing up for people when they need you. It's taking a chance on someone who needs a chance. It's believing that broken things can be fixed and that lost people can be found. She paused, emotion thick in her throat. That night when I pulled a stranger from a burning car, I never imagined it would lead here. To this moment, to this life, to this family. I thought I was saving his life. But the truth is, he saved mine. And now, together, we're going to save as many others as we can. The room erupted in applause. Maya stepped down from the podium and walked straight to Harold and Lily. They hugged her tight. And Maya realized something she'd never quite believed before. She was home, not in a building or a place, but in the love of people who'd chosen her, who'd seen her worth when she couldn't see it herself, who'd given her not just money or opportunities, but something far more valuable, a place to belong. As they left the event that night, walking through the hotel lobby with its glittering chandeliers, Lily linked her arm through Maya's. So, sister, Lily said with a grin, what do you want to do when we get home? Movie night? Maya smiled, the word home settling warm in her chest. Sounds perfect. And it was. It really was. Because sometimes in the middle of your darkest moment, when you think you're alone and nothing will ever get better, life surprises you. Sometimes courage leads to connection. Sometimes helping others helps you heal. And sometimes, when you're brave enough to open your heart, you find that family was waiting for you all along. Maya had started that night with nothing but worn-out sneakers and a brave heart. She'd ended up with everything she'd ever needed, not because of money or mansions or foundations, though those things helped, but because she'd learned the most important truth of all, that love, real love, doesn't come from being perfect or having everything figured out. It comes from showing up, from being brave, from choosing each other again and again, even when it's hard. And that was worth more than all the money in the world.